D Smoke here. I just had a wonderful conversation with my man Nick from Hardknocktv. Y'all check in, stay tuned. Okay, wait, hold on. I'd like to welcome y'all to Inglewood.
When was the first time that you decided you wanted to spit in Spanish? Do you remember?
Spit in Spanish.
Yeah.
The first time I wanted to spit in Spanish, it was when I was like my own rapper, like D Smoke outside of Park Circle. Because one, I'm gonna just be frank, Chiz was a better rapper than me because he was a rapper first. In the 8th grade, we went to Warren Lane. In the 8th grade talent show, I played classical piano and he rapped, him and his homie. And he was the lead rapper in that group. His homie was kind of cheering him on, doing the hook. You know, so he had this encyclopedia of rap, both from his brothers being rappers, him knowing just rap history and having started writing raps early. I wrote my first rap at 10, but it was like rap and producing, rap and this and that. You know, but when after Park Circle, when I was like, okay, D Smoke as a rapper. And I slowed down on making beats and I was like, okay, we really gonna dive into this. Somewhere early on, I was like, let me write some shit in Spanish. And I wrote a verse. I had this song called Overkill. And the second verse to Overkill was like, si tú me entiendes, te lo digo, andar en mi zona, eso es no más suicidio, right? And I did that shit. We opened for Kendrick Lamar in 2011. I wanna say it was October. It was at the Whiskey A Go-Go. And we were doing shows at the Whiskey A Go-Go, and we were doing our own shows, some of which had a couple hundred people. Sometimes we didn't promote them correctly. We expected the other people to promote them, and it was like 20 people, right? But because we had done like 4 or 5 shows there, their staff was like, when we have big artists, we'll call y'all to open up for them. We opened up for Kendrick. He packed that motherfucker out. I had never seen 2,000 people. It was way over capacity. Inside, outside, can't even push through the crowd. This is after
Section 80 or OD?
No.
It was after Overly Dedicated.
Okay. It was Overly Dedicated. And packed it out. And we're in there and we had a band. We're the only openers with a band. And this is like, we ain't had no Whiskey A Go-Go staff. No, we like up there setting up our own motherfucking instruments, like boom, boom, boom. You know, micing ourselves. And, you know, DJ Quest Coast opened up. We started off with a sample of Living for the City from Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder, living just enough for the city. Then the band picks it up. Boom, boom. Sample cuts out. Right? So his crowd, who hadn't fucked with none of the openers, right? They was like, opening acts, get out of here. When we start playing, they stopped. Like, they were moving around talking. You could hear the crowd loud over the other openers. When we started playing, they stopped because, one, we know, like, all right, if this ain't our crowd, we're going to have the band smashing before we even hit the stage. So they're like, we don't know this. This ain't no, what Kendrick song is this? Mm-hmm. They already know a show is happening, right? So then we get up there and they're silent throughout the whole set. Like, and not silent like this is whack, but kind of like, who are y'all? We don't know none of this music, except for 2 moments. They went in an uproar when Tiffany Goucher, we had this part where the band sat out and nobody did nothing. She walked up to the stage, it was silent, and they're thinking she's about to rap because she's dressed like a boy in this baggy sweater and these boots, dreads hanging all down, and she just opens up her mouth and blows them away. Right, and they go up like, oh my God, like she sounds like Lauryn Hill meets Jill Scott. Like, they go up. And then on that Spanish part, after I did the first verse, you know, they're watching like, okay, they getting the show. Then the band breaks and I'm like, si tú me entiendes, te lo digo, andar en mi zona, eso es no más suicidio. They erupt. Blah! Like, oh shit. Because, you know, the hip hop community is like, the people who show up to shows and buy the merch are overwhelmingly more Latin than they are black. You know what I'm saying? And so they erupted, and that's when I knew. I was like, okay, we're gonna dive into it, because one, my desire to learn Spanish came from growing up in LA. The homies spoke it in the house, and I was at their house with their parents, and sometimes I was lost, and then they'd be like, mijo, dile a él que yo estaba, and then I'd be like, oh, he'd be like, my mom said that you can stay if you want, but like, so that's where it came from. So my thing is, I always tell people, like, it's not foreign, it's not a foreign language. Foreign is out there. This shit is right here. You know what I'm saying? So that's where my desire to learn it came from, and that's why I'm shameless in doing it, because it's not robbery of some shit. It's some LA shit. Spanish is some right here, right now shit. So
I'm glad you brought that up. As a Latino, when you do it,
mm-hmm.
it feels really authentic. It feels like you're connected to the culture. Mm-hmm. There's been some stuff this year. I'm not going to get into specifics.
I know exactly what it is, but
there's been some stuff that's come out this year that, to me, it feels more like a parody of the culture, mm-hmm. and it feels like artists are trying to pander to an audience without authentically connecting with the community. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to an artist to have that authentic connection to the community? Now I feel like it's become this thing. It's kind of like the hot thing to do, but I don't feel like people are necessarily going all the way to research what exactly they're doing or how it's affecting the community.
My thing is, if you want to, like, I took the long route. Like, I'm a Spanish literature major.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I studied in Costa Rica. I learned from the homies, and my commute was like all Spanish radio and Spanish movies, and like the long route. If you want to access that crowd, and you're not necessarily trying to take the long route, feature a dope ass Latin artist on the come up, or a major one, but access the community from a place of, this is a real element in the community.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Not just, all right, y'all stand there and wear the stuff that they wear. You know what I'm saying? Like, have that creative exchange with somebody that has something to say from that community's perspective. To keep it 100, the reason why the community fucks with what I'm doing is not because I speak on behalf of the community. I'm speaking on behalf of myself, but it still represents the respect for that community, because one, the day I started learning Spanish, I was like, even if my vocabulary is this big, I'm gonna say those words the right way. Mm-hmm. There's a way to say it. You know what I'm saying? Pronunciation was my first, like, we're gonna say it right. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna be out here like, yo hablo, dos veces a la semana, so yeah, if you want to access that community, collaborate in some meaningful ways and be you. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're not the thoughtful artist, I'm not saying go deep and be, be you with the artist that's gonna be them, and that's, people love that shit. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Without saying no names. You know?
Yeah. I feel like it's a conversation that can be difficult if people aren't coming at it from an honest perspective of like, look, I'm not trying to shame anyone. But I feel like it's a conversation that needs to be had, and I don't feel like enough people are having it in terms of like, as a culture, how do we talk to each other of like, hey, I don't feel comfortable with this, or you don't feel comfortable with this. Mm-hmm. Let's get to some kind of understanding of why. Because if what you're trying to do is, big up a culture, then, I want to support that. So let's figure out how we can do it on terms where everybody is on the same page, and somebody doesn't feel like they're being misrepresented, or kind of like all Latinos being, mushed into one experience or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. So I think that's important. On the flip side of that, I think it's really important that you're unifying black and brown, because I feel like in society there are a lot of elements that a lot of times try to pit us against each other.
Absolutely.
And someone who I respected who did that very well, rest in peace, was Nipsey. Yeah. That's somebody who I felt like really did it from an honest perspective of, I'm not going to let people try to get in here and separate us. Mm-hmm. Like, we are on the same page coming up. A lot of times we have to battle for the small spaces or the blocks or whatever it is, but I'm not going to let that kind of, separate us, divide and conquer, if you will.
Right, no, absolutely.
So I just wanted to bring that up, because I definitely have seen it be a concerted effort on your end of like, hey, this black and brown unity, and we know in LA with street culture, sometimes it can get a little political on certain things and others. But I always like to take time and acknowledge the people who are, doing more to unite us as a culture.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was telling somebody it's a lot of that tension that's fed, it's instigated, and it comes from county jail and from the prison system. It's like the way the policies that they put in place feed real life gang tension in the streets, because when people go in and out, it's from their OGs. It's like, man, don't fuck with them.
Right.
And but that starts in the jail when it's like, y'all are here and we gonna do y'all like that. So
right.
But yeah, and it's crazy. Even at the video that I shot for, and it's very intentional. Like the video that I shot for "Hurry Up and Let Me Go" on the show. I had OG, and if you see any G's in my videos, these are not actors with Sharpie tattoos. Like, we calling them, you know what I'm saying? And we having real conversations to make sure everybody knows what's at play. And we have to have those real life mediation conversations. And they're like, yeah, I'll show up. I trust you. And I'm gonna be on my best behavior because you asked me to smoke and I respect you, but I still got a burner on me. You know what I'm saying? And that was on both sides. And then even then at the end, when we're taking the final picture for the video where I'm on the roof and everybody's standing next to each other, before I get on the roof, hey, they like, man, homie, we gonna keep the peace because you say so. But I know a real G from the other side when I see one, like, you can't have me standing next to them in the picture. And I'm like, well, whatever, homie, get where you gonna be at, but as long as you keeping the peace, so a lot of that is from the gang side, but the community side is such a whole different story. And I feel like gangs might make up 10 to 15% of the youth population, even the hip hop population, right? But it's this powerful, it's like the yelling, and not yelling in a bad sense, like you don't have anything to say, but it's the loud, visible, memorable statement versus people that just walk down the street. They're always there, but you always remember, like, damn, that made me feel a certain way because it's abrasive, in sound and message a lot of times. So, but yeah.
Run the Subtitles.
Hey, Run the Subtitles was me basically saying, without worrying about what project comes of these verses or whatever I'm writing, write some shit where I'm being myself, speaking from my perspective, over beats that people already love, and shoot visuals myself, either myself or me and my 15-year-old nephew, like taking my direction, like hold the camera, set it on a tripod, And the first one I did at Darby Park in Inglewood, and it was to the beat for Bag Lady, explosive. So, and I stacked up 3 of them, and because we were intentionally going to use them to build up momentum to get to a project, just because we knew that was going to be like the calling card, like, okay, he's doing something different. When I started releasing them, they picked up steam of their own, and that's how people from Rhythm and Flow found out about me and reached out, like, what you're doing is dope, and come holler at us, go through the motions and we'll make sure at least you get a shot to be on the show. Because some people who rapped and even got to the audition, they didn't make it in front of the judges. So they were like, we'll give you a shot. Once you're in front of the judges, what happens is on you. Right. You fuck up, c'est la vie. You know what I'm saying? But Run the Subtitles was that free form, like, I'm just rapping. You know what I'm saying? I've been making music with an intention for so long, just to be like, all right, put on a beat and let's see what happens, and then let's do a visual to it. That's 1 minute, and we'll see. And people started sharing it. Jill Scott was like, this is dope, repost. I woke up like with 100 new follows, like, what the hell happened? And then I chase it back and I see the Jill post. I was like, oh, dope. Then Tyrese and Battle Cat did. And then when Battle Cat got wind of it, a lot of the West Coast people in the industry who follow him, because he's a legend, they started catching wind of it. So it served its purpose.
For sure. Yeah. That was a connection to the show, right?
Absolutely.
So somebody saw it from Battle Cat.
Yeah, so Battle Cat posted it. A young lady named DJ Moon Baby she caught wind of it, and she's good friends with Bianca Bibbs, who was one of the producers on the show. And Bianca reached out and was like, fill out this application. And in my head, I'm like, man, I got records on the charts, man. I done got a full history. I ain't gonna be no contestant. But then she was like, it would be dope. You'll represent the West. It's gonna be big. It's on I can't tell you yet, but it's gonna be on a network that allows us to do it differently. Because had it been ABC or MTV or all kind of stuff, I'd have been like, dope, but it's not for me.
Competition shows have a history of focusing on drama and focusing on entertainment, but not necessarily substance. Artists who obviously is bringing substance to the table. Were you ever concerned that maybe they put you in a bad light, or they try to set up a situation just to instigate stuff? Or
I was super concerned that it would reflect poorly on me. Like the day before, I basically told them like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. I backed out. And they said, why? What is wrong with you? Like, come on, we came this far. I had already done the behind the scenes audition. And then I told them like, the contract says, whatever you do can be used against you. You know what I'm saying? And it literally says it may reflect poorly on your artistry. And the last thing I wanted is for something to be seen by 100 million people that reflects poorly on my artistry.
Right.
And they said, and Bianca's words were, we can only use what you give us. And so, I literally went back to the management team like, hey, look, we can do it. And I told him like, this is the play. This is a drug deal. They're out to make a show that's entertaining by any means. If I'm the baboon fool, they'll put it out there and it'll be that kind of entertainment. If I give them incredible performances and nothing else, that's what they have to use. It's a drug deal. We got guns. They got guns. We got crack. They got money. The crack is my music. You know what I'm saying? They got the money. That's the amount of publicity. And we really do got guns, motherfucker. So, but that's how we approached it. We approached it from a standpoint of, we know they're not out to make me a star.
Right.
So I wasn't buying anything. Like, they, all throughout the process, like, yeah, we want to, shut up. I don't want to hear that shit. You know what I'm saying? And I was comfortable saying no throughout the process. They told me to go up there, hype up the crowd, ask the judges, interact with the judges, see how they're doing, and then perform. That went against everything I knew about being a real artist. I'm not going to ask you, hey, like, what's up before I've even given you, like, maybe if I got a full set, then it's like, all right, we family now. I earned y'all respect. I showed y'all what we here to do. Now we going to create that moment. I'm not going to get up there and make a fool of myself so that you create a set of whack-ass expectations from me. Like, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to bust. And then I'm going to stand in place with my head high as if all I expect you to do is say positive things. And I ain't really listening to what you have to say anyway, which only led to them being like, he already knows. So let's, show the kind of respect that he already has for himself. The judges were only showing you how you felt about yourself.
Right.
If you was up there like, I don't know, then they would be like, yeah, I don't know.
Right.
If you was like, no, I know I'm dope. It's like, well, you obviously know you're dope. So, like, that's what happened,
That's a good T.I. impression.
Hey, you know who it was. So, yeah.
Speaking on that, the moment where you forgot your words.
Yes.
I think spoke more about you. I mean, the lyrics were dope. I don't want to take anything away from that. But you carry yourself so different from when anybody else forgot their words or messed up, because you kind of just like pushed through it. And it was when everybody, like somebody else would mess up, it's like all of a sudden everyone would notice they messed up because they'd stop, head would go down, things would happen. Is that just something that is in you to just kind of like keep the head tall and just push through?
That's probably the teacher in me. The teacher in me is like roll with the punches. Or the teacher or the fighter, they're the same thing. You're a fighter, you're a teacher, you're a teacher. But I think that just my life experience definitely lent to that. That like there was a young kid named Arion who was dope as shit.
Yep.
Dope. Incredible rapper. You know what I'm saying? Let somebody else tell it. It's all kind of rappers on the show who are better rappers than me, right? But I think I knew every time Arion messed up because he's like, damn it. Yeah. Arion, what's wrong with you? Like, you know what I'm saying? He beat himself up on stage. Whereas a mistake is a human moment. And all the crowd is really there for is a collection of human moments to make them feel better about the shit that they're going through at home. So if I could live up to my human moment, own it, and then come out that motherfucker big, you know, then it's a win. I still thought, to keep it 100, I still thought they might send me home for that though, when I was on stage. And the only thing that made me think like, damn, I might stay, is the crowd would not stop cheering. Like, they cut it shorter. Like, the crowd was going big, and then the judges had to be like, okay, like, we gonna say some stuff. Cardi, you know, she was disappointed. And that's the beauty of it, is like, they had such high expectations that by that time they was like, I'm just really disappointed that what happened? You know, you set the bar high, you know. But
if anything, it fit the narrative arc, right? If you look at any movie, if you look at any book, it's like the main character has to have a fallback to show the human side, so that when they pass through it, there's a bigger redemption at the end.
Right. I mean, when all is said and done, that's the beautiful, you know, irony of the story. But when I was there, all I wanted to do that day, all I wanted to do was give another flawless performance. I'm competitive, so I was like, shout out to Flawless.
Yeah, I was like, no pun intended.
Shout out to Flawless. But all I wanted to do was like go out there and be like, put it all out there, because I knew, one, I was confident that nobody on that show was gonna do what I was prepared to do that night.
Right.
Like, it's a ballad in a rap competition. How dare you come out to something where the tempo is that slow?
Right. George Clinton.
You know what I'm saying? Like, especially to a song, that is that fast, and we cut the tempo in half. If that song is 100, we go back to, you know what I'm saying? Like, cut it in half. And so I knew that wasn't gonna happen. I was confident that we was about to give them something that they had not seen and wouldn't see on the rap competition. But then when we dropped the lyrics, I was like, oh no. And so it was just a lot of pride and real feelings into how I finished. Like,
right.
Put your doves grew up on the west side. You know, so I'm glad it turned out the way it did.
For sure. Any chance you can give us the acapella verse that we missed? Or?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that one, the verse that you missed some of both. Grandma cook in the kitchen, looking a mess, reminiscing, knowing you blessed, in a vision guiding you. I smell violets and violence, sugar and silence, making melodies and beats out of bullets and sirens, wiping boogers on Daryl back and Daviana smiling. Baby, how I'm supposed to feed y'all up in this wild asylum? Go outside and play a little. Grass stains on my jeans, yard balls, so they scratching up my face a little. Faith in little things like candy rings and Skittles given to my crush. All I hope is that she be open to play a little. Save a little for tomorrow, cause when the lights come on, we ball in time like watching angels age a little. Say a little prayer before I go to bed. Thankful for my mom, every night I bow my head. How she fill that void when Pops was in the feds, and the only concern was that her sons were never scared when the kids pull up. So it's just that whole narrative of like coping.
Yep.
The love is in the house, but it's like we rough outside in Pops' absence. And the first verse, I got to go back, and we're going to do it out of order, but I'm going to give you that too, because the first verse you didn't get completely. It's the story from Pops' perspective. So on the show, we changed clothes. I come out the drunk dad, and that mindset of like, I'm a self-proclaimed king who don't have it together and is risking being there for the family. Ultimately is not there. The second verse is the kids playing. And so, but Pop's verse was incredibly gifted. You can't beat me with a baseball bat. I'm from a place where you better be different. These niggas aiming at your baseball hat, put extra holes in your Letterman sixes. Niggas retire out the streets with no medals, but they medal left veterans lifted. I'm a king and my checkers are missing. Checking for change in my pockets. I got babies at home and they ain't feeding they self. Bank ain't making no loans to black man. It's 1987, so that crack jam. So my habit make my cash do a tap dance. Hand-to-hand exchanges. Got me high as fuck, now I'm eager and dangerous. I could stack it up if I just hit a couple licks. I ain't no bitch, but if I get caught, I'm sure gonna miss it when the kids pull up. You know, so that's that song. And
it's vivid.
The shit is vivid, and I have notes in my head of like, okay, this is how you deliver that. Because some songs, the way you write, your delivery allows them to understand it, right? Violets and violence. Like I practice that line. Like if you don't deliver it correctly, it's violence and violence.
Right.
Right.
But if you deliver it, there's contrast there.
Yeah, exactly. Or like even checking for change in my pockets. I got babies at home and they ain't fitting no self. Bank ain't making no. It's like these things that's going through this dude's head. So all these notes plus the first time of us performing in that environment. In a day's time, I just think it got to me, so.
Yeah. I mean, it's not something, I don't say natural that an artist would go through. It's like you're specifically setting up these situations but it's like in reality, you would have practiced that a bunch of times before you actually went to go.
Weeks and weeks, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, you're not going to book me in 3 days for that degree of, what I'm saying? So
they're trying to make TV for first. TV's sake, not artistry first and then TV.
Exactly.
Soundwave. On the show, y'all obviously had instant chemistry. Did y'all have a relationship before that, or is it just like?
So me and Soundwave had never met. Soundwave, we had plenty mutual friends, right? Sir knew Soundwave. Sir didn't work with Soundwave either, though. So we hadn't met. I know a lot of people know that, my brother's on TDE, so they assume like, you get the TDE, But me and Soundwave have never met, but he was familiar with me. So he kind of started off with it like, hey man, congratulations for making it this far. We in the finals, bro. Right. So he knows what my goal is. He knows I'm the last West Coast artist. And so we didn't know each other. When I went in though, I went into every session with a game plan, because what I was not gonna do is like allow the producer to determine our creative approach, right? Because the producer doesn't know what the show has been up until this point. And part of my strategy was always, this is what they've seen. This is what they haven't. This is what they won't see. That's what, you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm gonna do. And so I knew down to the tempo of every song, I was watching everything. Everything was in the same kind of trap, bounce, and so I was like, they saw a tidbit of George Clinton. They thought I was going to crip walk when I picked that sample. They thought I was going to post like West Coast and I'm chilling with these motherfuckers. Nigga, they thought that's what I was going to do. Did something different. Now I think I just wanted a certain energy in the finals. I wanted to, like, I'm a boxing fan. If you're the world champ, if you're going up against a world champion and it's a tie, the judges are going to give it to the champion because you didn't do enough to take the title from the champion. So that's where I'm coming from creatively. Like, this is the finals. I wanted to feel like, I can't believe he did that. So I was like, what is a literal tempo that feels like it's stomping? Like, so I was literally doing that. And even in my hotel room, I got my computer and stuff. So I made a scratch version of the beat, like, because they give us the challenge the night before, then the next day you get in the studio. That night I'm in like writing, putting stuff together, and I already had that first line. And the crazy thing about it is he pressed a couple buttons and scrolled through his, like, he had a drum machine, and I forget which one it was, but he scrolled through it and he hit a couple sounds, and like the third one was like boom, 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 like, and it's, I understand why they call him Soundwave, because he's not just producing them from raw sounds, like he's producing from samples that he created. So it's like this one button has a literal kick, literal people stomping their feet, chants that he probably went in the studio and was like, oh. Like, and so this one button, he just creates all these different sounds, like his own sound bank is custom, so that by the time he's going into a beat, there are layers on just single buttons that he's pressing, and then from there, he goes in and he has his boy Bacon play live violin and keys, and he's like directing it and he's doing the drums at the same time. And so being able to come in like, this is the direction, and then him put layers on it that I couldn't even imagine, because I'm just like, put the kick here. So it could have just been, but instead it's like, womf, 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 womf. And it's one button he pressed, like, oh, I'm prepared for whatever direction this takes. Like, that's some real production stuff. It's some genius shit to come in with that. Just like come in with ammunition. Like, he didn't bring a knife to a gunfight. Like,
Right.
I got you, you know. So.
And he brought his own ammunition. These aren't
His
samples.
own-
He
these aren't
created
sam-
all
these
of
are-
it.
yeah,
that's,
these
that's
are-
smart publishing right there.
Exactly. It gets expensive. You lose your back end money, you know.
For sure.
Sampling too much.
Have you guys had a chance to make anything since the show, or is that something?
Me and
that-
Soundwave, we check in here and there, but we haven't made anything new since the show. And you know what's interesting? And I respect it because I think a lot of people are waiting to see what I do with the movement that I created prior to the show. And not to say he's not rooting me on, but if whatever I was doing got me as prepared as I obviously was for the show, like, why change that formula now, you know, that we have this platform? Like, I can make music like that because I make music with people at that level. Who are those people? Let's put them on so that instead of me reaching out to something that has already reached a certain platform of success, I create this whole new platform that now when I collaborate is mutually beneficial, not him pulling me up to where he's at, you know. So and all of these camps that was Soundwave he didn't become Soundwave by calling Jay-Z and be like, I want a Jay placement. Soundwave and Kendrick came up together. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you know, people like to compare me to Kendrick, and I take it as a high compliment because Kendrick was one of the greatest to ever spit lyric to song. You know what I'm saying? And I think because they have so small of a point of reference of my body of work, then that's natural. Of course, you know, when, for example, when Chance the Rapper came out, it was like, he sounded like Wayne.
Right.
Now he's Chance the Rapper because you've distinguished him based on his body of work. And I expect the same thing to happen with me and, you know, Dot. So, but I have my own sound waves, you know, namely Jason Pounds, DK the Punisher, incredible producers who've been dope for a long time, who are all over my project. You know, Siege Monstrosity, you know, and then I got OGs on there, Battle Cat, you know, Mars from 1500, you know, a guy by the name of Beast who's out of London, you know, Iman Miss Beats, a woman out of London who's an incredible producer, you know, Tiffany Goucher, just people that we're accessing. So
this is for the project that's coming out in January?
Project that's coming out in January.
Dope.
So it's like me and Soundwave haven't worked since then, and I think it's both because, you know, not just Soundwave, but a lot of people are waiting to see, like, what are you gonna do with that?
Right.
You know.
Yeah. It's like, are you going to collaborate with the judges? Are you going to collaborate with other?
Right. No.
Because
So
you've built this whole little world, and now everyone's tapped into that world. And it's like, well, you had a whole world before the show.
right, exactly. So there are no. I have songs. I have a song that I did with one of the judges. It's not on this project. You know what I'm saying? I could put it on the project, but it's not because.
That's with Tip, right? Because you already
It's with
mentioned
Tip,
that you
yeah.
guys are collaborating.
Okay, I didn't know I said it. But yeah, it's a song. I did a song with Tip. And it's in the internet. It's out there. It belongs to the world. But I did a song with Tip, and it's super dope. And Tip is a mentor of sorts, you know. But this project, in the same way that people bought into me, not because I'm Surge Brother, but because I'm me, we're going to give them a project that does exactly that before we decide to tap into some of those features that we already have access to, you know, so.